is the basic syntax. First, we have the import statement. Okay, this is to import all the packages. Okay, so this is to import all the classes that you will be using in your program. I have imported the java.lang package because I have used the system class here. Okay, it is a class of the java.lang package. We try to understand the meaning of this entire statement, why public, why static. Okay, then the function name, of course, return type, then the string args. Okay, just wait. Just wait for a minute. Okay, so we have discussed about public, static, void main, and string arguments. So what was this string args actually? So any Java program can accept any number of arguments from the command line. Command line, yes. So when an application is launched, the runtime system passes these command line arguments to the application's main method. Okay, via an array of strings. So your arguments is an array of type string. Okay, we have learned all these in details in the previous class. Next, this program was to display only two messages, that is welcome to Java and hello. And for that, we have used the system.out.println. So system is the class belonging to .java.lang package. Out is a static member. Okay, so system class has this object. Okay, system class has this static object of the print stream class. Okay, that is why we use system.out. Okay, it is for standard output stream. And then followed by we have the method. Okay, it can be either print or it can be println. So these are all methods of print stream class. Okay, so out is an object of print stream and println is a method of print stream. So in order to use a class method, you have to create an object and you have to call the method using that object. That is the reason why we use out. Okay, so it is for output stream. So for that we have to display these two messages, we have written these two statements. So this was all for the first program. Now we go through another program. This, okay, okay, so this is my second program. Okay, this is my second program. Here, see, I have simply tried to find the sum of two numbers. Okay, so here at the time of declaration only, I have initialized the variables. Fine, I have initialized the variables. So here A is 4, B is taken to be 5. Please be informed that here I am not taking user inputs. Okay, I am not taking inputs through the keyboard. Fine, this is, the values are the variables are initialized at the very beginning. Okay, and it will remain fixed. Fine. So in order to take user inputs, we have to use some other concepts. We have to use some other classes. So for the time being, just see how we can, without providing user inputs, we can, write applications. So this is one example. So here I have taken the variable A to be 4, B to be 5. These are all integer type of variables. Then I have sum. So I have simply added the two numbers A and B. Okay, assign them to the sum variable, and I have simply tried to print, okay, display the value of sum here. Now, what is this class? Okay, so see, Java actually processes everything as a string. Okay, so Java will process everything as a string. So since sum equal to, this is one string constant, okay, which has been written inside double quotes, then this again is one kind of a string. Okay, sum, although it is of type integer, but anyways Java considers everything to be a string. So when you are to join two strings, okay, because this will be, when you display this entire message, okay, when this message will be displayed on the one. So let's just explain you by the, by running the example. Can you view the console command prompt?
No, ma'am.
Okay, just wait. I'm sharing the entire screen. Okay. Okay, I think you can view now.
Yes, ma'am.
This is how we got into the folder where we saved all the Java programs. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Also, just run the program first. Okay. So compilation is done. My dot class file is generated. Okay. Now I have the bytecode. I will show you how the bytecode looks like. But first, let's go through the output. See. So finally, I have this sum 9. Okay. So here, see, 4 plus 5 is anyways 9. So I have the correct output. Why I tried to execute this program, just to show you, just look at this message that has been displayed here. Sum equal to 9. So this is one entire string. Okay. So sum equal to is the string constant, which will anyways get displayed. It's a constant, okay, which has been written inside double quotes. So it will be displayed as it has been written. Then I need to add this sum with this string. Okay. So when we concatenate strings, we use the plus operator in between. So plus operator is not for addition. Okay. Here we are simply concatenating two strings, means we are joining two strings. We are joining sums equal to with the value of the sum that we have obtained, which is 9. So that these two parts can be combined and can be displayed as a single statement. So that is the meaning. Is that fine? Okay. I just, before proceeding to the next program, I would just like to show you one thing, since we have been talking very much about bytecode dot class file. I told you here that when you write Java C, okay, this is for this is the Java C is the compiler, Java compiler, which will generate your bytecode. Yes, dot class file. So where is this dot class file actually stored? So it will be stored. Okay, it will be stored in the same folder where you have written your Java program. So see, all these, see if you can see here, these are all the class files that have been generated. This was, okay, the first program, this was the very first program, Java program, this, okay, this one dot Java extension. So this was the very first Java program, and the equivalent dot class file is this. Okay, so just now I executed this Java application, and my corresponding dot class file for the same program is this. So if I open it, just see, this is how your bytecode looks like. It is a combination of some symbols which you will not understand. Okay, you will understand the words, but you cannot understand the meaning, what it's written here. Okay, now this will be interpreted. So the Java virtual machine, that is the JVM, will now take this bytecode and it will completely convert it to machine code so that it can be easily understood by the machine and be executed. Okay, that is why we say that bytecode is not, bytecode is partially machine code. Okay, it is partially compiled and optimized. To convert it to, a fully machine language program, we need interpreters. So JVM provides that interpreter using which this bytecode will get interpreted to machine code. Fine. Okay. Anyways, let's get back to the. So have you? I hope you have understood this program. It had nothing much to understand here. Okay. Next, we go to how to take user inputs. Okay, we will try to understand user inputs. Okay, but before that, let's just go through something. Okay, see, in this note, I have given you some topics, okay, including the variables that we can use in Java. Okay, so in Java, actually, there are 3 types of variables that we use. You know what a variable is, you know how to declare a variable, yes? We declare variable with the type. Okay, so type is a data type. Okay, okay. So you all know this. I would just like to say something about the variables. See, these are the 3 types of variables that we use in Java. Okay, one is the local variable that we have already used in C. Then one is instance variable. Instance variables means the object variables. Okay, the object variables. And then we have the static variables. These are the class variables. So since we have not yet started with, basic programming of classes and objects, so I will not explain this much in details. Okay, And you all know what local variable is. Local variable means it is local to the block in which it is declared. Fine. So see, it's written here. These variables are created when the block, so where in whichever block or in whichever function you declare this variable, okay, so it will be wherever you want to use this variable, okay, you declare it there and then it is created inside that block itself. Okay, so wherever you declare this, in whichever block or in whichever function you declare this variable, it will be created inside that function or inside the block. And once you exit that particular block or that particular function, your variable will also get destroyed. Okay, so that is the lifetime that we call the lifetime. Lifetime means for how long will your variable exist. Okay, so the existence of a local variable is within that block or within the function in which it is declared. Okay, so once you get inside the block and you declare a variable, it will be, you know, active in that block, it will be created in that block, and once you leave that block, it will be destroyed. So if you try to use that variable again outside that block or outside that function, you again will have to declare it. Otherwise, the compiler will not know. Okay, it will declare an error message saying that the variable is undefined. You have to define it again. You have to declare it again. Fine. That is the you have already known. You already know what local variables are. You have used it in C. And talking about the scope is from where it is accessible. Okay, we can access these variables only within that block. So as I said, in whichever block or in whichever function you have written that particular, you have declared that particular variable, it can be used only in that variable. It can be active only in that variable. And once the block is exited, that particular variable also gets destroyed, and it cannot be accessed by, you know, from outside that particular block. You cannot access that particular variable from outside the block. You have to access it only inside the block in which it is declared. Okay. So that is the very, you know, basic concept of local variables. And talking about instance variables are actually object variables. So whenever you create an object of a class, the variables also gets created. Created in the sense memory gets allocated for them, okay, for those particular variables in objects. So since we have not used objects, we don't know the memory allocation for classes and objects. So we will not discuss this much in details. But for the time being, just remember that instance means object. So whenever we, you know, an object is created for a particular class, these variables also gets created. Fine. And next we have static variables. Static variables are the class variables. Class variables means it will, you know, its lifetime will remain inside the class. Okay, so just as I said in case of instance variables, okay, when you create the object, the variable also gets created. When the object is destroyed, the variable also gets destroyed. Okay, here this particular variable has the life, you know, the scope is, these static variables have the class scope. Okay, so they will exist as long as the class exists. Okay, and all the objects belonging to that class will share this particular variable. Only one copy will be maintained for this variable, and every object belonging to the class will share this particular copy. Okay, you need not understand this much in details for the time being. Fine, just understand that there are three types of variables we use in Java: local, instant, static. For the time being, we will stick only to local variables. From second unit onwards, we will discuss about instance and static variables. Okay, next, I have added the data types here. Okay, the Java data types. So let's directly go to the chart. Here you see, these are the data types. Okay, so we have byte, okay, which is of 8-bit. This is one type of data. Okay, this is the memory allocation. Okay, they occupy 1 byte of data. We have short, which is of 2 bytes. These are the ranges. Okay, these are the ranges. Then we have int of 4 bytes, long 8 bytes, float 4 bytes, double 8 bytes. Okay, we have boolean, which is 1 bit. So 1 bit for either true or for false. Okay, it is either 0 or a 1. So that is 1 bit. And then we have character, which is of 2 bytes. Okay. Next, this is how you use variables along with data types. Okay, and this is how you initialize values. Okay, these are some examples I've given. Just go through it. Okay, I'll share the note. Go through it. Next, we come to a very important topic, which is the Java user input. Okay, now we will try to write Java programs giving user inputs. Okay, so you have seen how without giving user input, how you can initialize your values in the program itself and how you can run without having, without using the standard keyboard device. Yes, without using the standard input. So here now we will try to look at how to use the standard input. Okay, how to provide input at runtime. Okay, now you see for that we will be making use of one class which we call the scanner class, and this class belongs to the java.util package. Fine. So as we know that there are many predefined classes and all these classes belongs to some packages. So here we have the java.util package inside which the scanner class belongs. So using scanner class, we will give user inputs. Now, if see the scanner class has got, we will directly get into the methods. So in scanner class, we have various methods. Okay, so this table represents those methods that can be used that belongs to a scanner class. First is next boolean. So it reads a boolean value from the user. Okay, it will either read true or false. Okay, one way. Next we have next byte. So it reads a byte value from the user. Okay, so if you want to enter any 8-bit or less number, okay, value, then you can use byte instead of int. Okay, next we have next double, which reads double value from the user. We have next float, so it reads the float value from the user. So these are all functions. So this is the function name followed by the bracket. Okay, so this is how we write functions. Okay, so this is for reading float values from user. This is for integer values. Next we have if you want to read a string. Okay, then this is for that. Next line. Next long is for reading long values, and next short is for reading short values. Okay, so you know the data types. Okay, you know the how much bytes or how much bits all these will occupy. So accordingly, based on the data types and based on the requirement, okay, you will have to use the functions. Okay, now you see, as we know that, as I said, scanner is a class and all these functions belongs to the scanner class. And we know that to be able to use methods or functions of a class, we have to create objects. So accordingly, we will have to create objects to be able to use this particular methods. Okay, so to be able to access all, so these methods will belong to the class scanner. Okay, so to be able to access these methods, to be able to use it in our programs, we have to create objects of type scanner, okay, of this type, and we will be accessing all these methods as and when required. Okay, so now that is the basic. You have to know the name of the class, the various functions that we use, the package to which it belongs, because you have to import that package in your program to be able to use this class, and also how to create objects and use it in our program. So let's start. Let's see. Okay, so see here we have one program where we will try to give user input for the primitive types, which is integer, float, and string. Okay, so these are some primitive data types for which we are to give user input. Okay, so accordingly, I have declared these variables here. Excuse me. Then you see this, just look at this line here. Okay, this is very important. Now, to be able to use this, as I said, to be able to use all the methods belonging to the scanner class, you have to create objects to be able to access those methods. So here I have created one object. See, this is the class scanner. Okay, this is the scanner class, name of the class, followed by the object name. So this can be any name. You can choose any name. I have chose in for out input. Okay, since I am giving user input, so for my convenience, I have used in. So this is the class name followed by the, just remember the syntax of how to declare objects for scanner class. Okay. Class name followed by the object name equal to new scanner. So here new is a keyword which will let us create the object in. Okay. So new is that keyword which will create this object of class scanner. Okay. And then scanner is a constructor. So constructors actually, so this is again an object oriented feature which we will study in in details in the upcoming classes. But for the time being, just remember that constructors are always used to create objects and initialize them at the time of creation. Okay. So we use this is the constructor of the scanner class, and always remember constructors and the class name must always be same. Okay. And then we have system.in. So here you see system, we have used system.out. Yes, we have used system.out. It is the same thing. System.out was an object for what? For printing. It was for standard output. System.out was for standard output. System.in will be for standard input. So this is one predefined object which is passed, okay, for standard input. Okay. And the system is again, it is the same class. This is the same class as in here. Okay. And in is, system.in is a predefined object for standard input. Since we are, we will be using input stream now. Okay. This is one static variable of input stream class. This was of output stream. Output was from output stream class, print stream class. Okay. And this is for input. Fine. Okay. So this is it about the how to create objects of scanner class. Fine. Class name, object name equal to new, which will lead to the creation of the object, and scanner constructor, which will initialize the object as soon as it is created. Okay, initialize means to provide values to the object as soon as it is created. Okay, and system.out is for standard input. Fine. Now we will see how to give input to each of these values one by one. So first, okay. So first we will go through this. Okay, first we go through the how to get input integer. We will first cover this part. You see, system.out.println. So yes, you are to, okay, so this is the message that will be displayed first. Enter an integer. So here you have to enter an integer. Okay, here let me just show you one thing. This was the program that I showed you just before this program. Here you see I did not let the user enter anything. Everything was being provided by the programmer. Yes, here I simply displayed the final result, but here everything will be provided by the user. Okay, not this. So here it will ask the user to enter an integer. Okay, so how will it work now? How will you provide the input using this statement? So you see here, num is the integer variable. You are to provide input. You are to provide input. You are to initialize this particular value variable. Okay, you are to assign some value to this variable num. So for that, how will you do it? You have to make use of the next int method. Okay, which will read integer values for the user. And how do we access this method? By using the object that has been created already. Okay. So scanner was the class and nextin is the method. You cannot directly use nextin method in your program. For that, you have to create objects and then you have to access the methods using the object. So here using the object, I have accessed the nextin method of scanner class. And where did I create the in object? In this statement. So in this statement, I created the in object. Now using this object of the scanner class, I will access all the methods of the scanner class that will be required for my program. Fine. So here first I have used nextInt method. Okay, so this is how you access it. In, that is object dot the method name. Okay, so once you access it, it will let the user input the stream, and accordingly it will be assigned to num. So now num will contain the value that the user has, read, okay, from the keyboard. And then you simply output, you simply display the value here. Input integer is plus num. Okay, so whatever value you enter, that will be displayed using the system.out.println statement. Similarly, now if you want to read a float value, here I have declared one float value f num. Okay, so for that again you have to do the same thing, but you will be using another method to assign the value, which is next float. Okay, which will read float values. Fine. So here again the same thing. Okay, in dot next float will access the float next float method of scanner class. It will let the user provide input for the fnum variable, which is a float type, and then in the last you will simply display the value that you entered. Fine. And here again the same thing has been done for string. Okay, and for that we will be using the next line method. So next line is used for reading a string. Okay, so any string that you will enter, that will be assigned to str, which is a string data type, and that will be displayed accordingly. Fine. So this is all about the program. So let's just run and show it to you. Just remember the program name, get input data. Get input data. See, can you all see? It has asked for the user to enter a string. So enter any name, say Namrata. Okay. See, input string is Namrata. Okay. Then you enter any number, say 34. Input integer is 34. Enter any float, say 34.67. Input value is 34.67. Have you understood the program? Please respond.
Ma'am, can you repeat once, ma'am?
Repeat what?
Ma'am, the whole program, ma'am.
Whole program. ইমান দেৰি কি কৰিছে? গুটিখিনি বুজোৱাৰ পিছত লাষ্টত আকৌ কিয় কোৱা ৰিপিট কৰিব? মই হেতুৱে বুজি নাপাওঁ। মই কৈছোৱে দেখোন, ক'বাত কিবা প্ৰবলেম হলে ইন্টাৰাপ্ট কৰিবা। আকৌ প্ৰগ্ৰামটো কি বুজাব আছে? Here you see, I have simply user input লৈছো। হেতু বুজি পাইছা নে নাই?
Yes, ma'am. Hetu paise, ma'am.
Hetu বুজি পাইছা? Why I have used the scanner class, is that clear? Scanner class will let you give input to your program. Okay, it is that class which enables us to give user input using the standard keyboard, standard input device keyboard. Fine, technically to বুজি পাইছা চাগে।